back? Let's talk about it. So, recently I've just been pondering all the different problems that I've been having in life and that I've overcome. And there are times in my life where I've just slipped like super fast, down a hill. In the climbing analogy, you're going up this mountain, you're constantly putting forth a lot of energy, and then all of a sudden you lose your footing, you didn't put that clip in right, and I'm not like the dude on Netflix who's doing the free climbing. That's insanity. Watch it if you have a chance, by the way. If you're afraid of heights, it's pretty squeamish, a squeamish watch. But, there's been so many times in my life where when I have put in so much effort, it just takes one slip and you're flying backwards. Well, sometimes to stop yourself on that tumble down, or that slip from all the time that you've put into it, it's fantastic when you're able to just stop and then take that first step forward. And I think this applies to just about every situation in life. Whether you're running a company and everything's been going well for a while and you hit a tumble in the market, whether you've been in a good relationship for a long time and then, one thing just kind of gets under your skin and causes you to slip up or mess up. And I think it's just in the different aspects and times in our lives. I remember recently where I had made a lot of accomplishment in a book that I'd been writing, and all of a sudden I just hit a bad day where I didn't get what I wanted to get done, and it pushed me back weeks. But the euphoria of actually stepping into that chapter and getting that next part of the book done, getting that first step in the right direction going again, is phenomenal. And so, the main point of what I'm trying to get at today, which I'm going to explain in different aspects of my life, is that it is difficult to get back up and going again, but it is 100% worth it. It is 100% worth it to give that a try and go back to it. I'm reflecting on how things were going at church today. And, one of my daughters has taken a long time to get into Sunday school, and she's finally just like, I saw her, she was just worshiping, just enjoying her day. She just was loving it, and it was so wonderful to see that. And my middle child, she has always been a one that's not been clingy, but she definitely misses us pretty profusely unless she's very engaged. Anyway, so I saw both of them make a little step forward today, and in most of the world's eyes, or in most people's eyes, it didn't look like much. But for me, I knew how big those steps were, especially since my eldest had had a few tries at going to places on her own and getting a little bit of independence and stumbling back due to bullying or problems or even just personality conflicts. So just to see her thriving in that moment was just such a euphoric and lovely moment. And what was interesting is it kind of put me on a bit of a trajectory to think about, myself and how I've matured in my creative world, in the spiritual realm, how many times I've free fallen and, thrown out my pickaxe and grabbed onto the side of the wall or the ice or whatever the visual is that you want to kind of put in there. And it take a while for the falling to stop, the free fall. And then inevitably, I take that first step back up the mountain, that first step towards, victory. And I saw that as well, just in the different areas that I was serving in today. I just saw some people who, in the past had, been somewhat, I guess, just maybe despondent or frustrated, with myself. They were just very kind and whether or not it's going to be long lasting, because I don't know these people at all personally. I don't even know their names. But just to see that little step of faith in the right direction, it means a lot. It really does. So, I just want to encourage you to take that step forward. If you feel like you've fallen from grace, or you feel like your self-worth is down, or you've even walked away from a goal or your spiritual life or family, there's always room to get back up and start again. Now, there's also going to be situations and people that you're going to walk alongside who are going to be really, how should I say, I guess they can be chameleon-like. They can change in the moment and cause you to feel really good, 1 week or one time, and then, will make you feel bad for the next 10. And you have to set up those boundaries. If you watch some of the videos in the past, I talk a lot about boundaries and setting up the right modes of self-control. I had searched the Bible for years, trying to figure out, what the word self-control meant, or I guess two words hyphenated, because in the fruit of the Spirit you have the words patience and the hyphenated word long suffering. So long suffering always made sense to me because it was to suffer long. You knew there was a situation in your life you were going to have to go through, and it was going to take some time for it to, come to a head. Or maybe you're going to spend the rest of your life with this problem or this situation. And long suffering was to admit it, to understand it, and just to move forward in it. While patience just seems a lot more in the moment. So self-control seemed natural, that maybe it was the middle ground. Maybe it was, how you deal with things, over the course of a day instead of in the moment or in the long term. And I really prayed about it for some time. I had read people's perspective on it, and just nothing really seemed to fit. So for months and months I prayed about it. And finally one day I stumbled upon a verse in the Bible, in the book of Psalms, that essentially said, and I'm not reading it verbatim as I'm talking and scrubbing away here, that a person or a man without self-control is like a city without walls. A person without self-control is like a city without walls. So what does that mean? I believe it means that a person without self-control doesn't have great boundaries. They haven't set things up with proper boundaries in mind, whether it's people they hang out with or sinful situations that they may get themselves into, or maybe as simple as, I just can't pursue this type of career or this type of placement anymore. Self-control has a lot to do with the preemptive. While long-suffering and patience kind of happens to us and we have to deal with it as it comes, I really believe that self-control is made for us to think about it, to process it, and we don't know when that attack will come, that situation, kind of like patience, and we know it's going to come, kind of like long-suffering, and it is that middle ground of self-control of those boundaries. Oh man, my nose is at me. That allow us to grow as people, or grow in that particular situation in the fruit of the Spirit. So, I hope this kind of helps anyone out there who's watching and kind of feeling that they've fallen from grace, or they're lacking in self-control, they're lacking in their patience. Because a lot of the time, we have to build up certain walls around areas of our lives that really need to be protected. There are certain places in situations that we just don't need to get into. It's interesting that the Bible tells us to fight when it comes to the spiritual realm. We need to put on the armor of God. However, when it comes to temptation, it comes to serious problems that will cause us to sin, we need to run. Very, very interesting. There's not a lot of people that talk about the concept of running. Not the fact that we're running away from a fight or from a spiritual war that we don't allow God to win in our lives. It's just there are certain places and situations that that they come up and we just need to boogie, or we need to set up extreme controls to be vigilant about our self-control. So going back full circle to what I was talking about, and as I land the plane here today, I just want to say that if you are a person who's been struggling with getting back up and getting back into the right headspace or place, maybe one of the first things you can do is set up some better self-controls. I know that with my daughters, for them to start going to school, for them to start going to Sunday school and connect more, we've set up boundaries for them, behavior, we've also set up some perks for them too, right? If they do a good job, and they are willing to go, which is for their betterment anyways, that, they'll be blessed in different ways. So anyway, I really do hope that this reminder helps you to get back on the horse and just keep trying at it, because life is difficult. And I know that whether it's people who are interacting on a Sunday, your day-to-day at work, or how kids interact with the world, we're all in these different time frames, different situations in our lives, and we just need to sometimes be encouraged. So I hope that was encouraging. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I really do hope that you are willing to step out into the wild world sometimes, and even though you feel like you're slipping and things aren't working for you, you're willing to actually buck up and put in the work and put in the effort, and see if you can get things going again. And last but not least, most of the time in life, success is not going to be one step forward, seven steps back. It's going to be a rarity. You want in life, actually, if anything, to be more so like 10 steps forward, 3 steps back, or something along those lines. As you break addiction, or as you do well in business or in your marriage, and eventually you hope to get to a place where it's 10 steps forward, 1 step backward, or 50 steps forward, 3 steps backward, something like that, where the ratio is really good. But there are going to be moments in your life, there really are going to be moments in your life when you need to, give things to God, recalibrate your patience, recalibrate your long suffering, your kindness, and your self-control, and get yourself back in the game. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any more examples that happened today or recently about getting back up on it. Actually, I do counsel and mentor a few men right at the moment. I've counseled and mentored hundreds over the years, and probably getting closer to thousands, but we don't want to inflate the number. And one of the things that they constantly come back to me and say is like, I've stumbled again, I've fallen again, I've hurt the people around me, and they just feel like there's no hope. And I want to share with you that there is a lot of hope. There's hope because when you commit that sin, I personally believe that God knew that sin that you were going to commit from before you even began in life. That Jesus died for your sin. That in that free will, as well as that election, which we don't always understand, but is happening, in the background and in the foreground of our lives, God is absolutely loving us and working through and in spite of our inadequacies and our failings. And when we do sin, God already knew that. So he chose us, not with the idea of, oh no, that wickedness that he's going to do in the future is going to eventually disbar him from my love. It is the fact that God knew we were going to do these types of things, and he still loved us in spite of it all. And hopefully, again, that gives you some encouragement that whatever you're going through, that whatever situation you're in, if you truly do love God and want a relationship with God and you stumble, God is there to forgive you. God does care about you. God does have a life that is a life set of goals and things that he would love for you to do for his kingdom, for his glory, and for your best. I never really understood what the desires of your heart were growing up. Like I would always think, oh, it's me wanting to do film, and through that God will work. But as I get older and as I'm a parent, I realize that the desires of my heart is to see my children do good in kind of whatever they're doing, and hopefully they uplift God along the way. And I think it's pretty similar with the way God has life laid out for us. When we are trusting God, when we're communicating with God, when we love God, kind of whatever we choose work-wise, God will work through that, and the desires of our hearts will be what is the main thing, which is the spiritual strength and aptitude in our lives that continues to grow. And we might make some choices along the way that maybe they're not the best of the two choices, or of the five choices, or even in whom we go into business with, or maybe even in whom we marry. I don't want to go too deep into that conversation off the cuff here, but I do believe that God has this amazing way of working out His will in our lives and for what's the best in our lives. So, yeah, once again, I hope that helps. It was just a cool little visual that I had of my daughters and people around me, as well as a memory of myself going through a lot of hardships and problems, and slippery slopes, and that first little step, that first step in the right direction means so much, because it legitimately could be a game changer for the rest of your life, their life, or anyone's life in between. Anyway, thank you so much for spending time with me doing the dishes, and hopefully that helped on some level. If you'd like to watch any more of the Dad Doing Dishes segment, please take a look at this video right about here. And if you'd like to like or subscribe, that would super help. Pop it a like right here. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless you.